Good morning everyone, Sage here. Welcome to the Executive Corner, Expert Talks. And in today's show we have Ms. Kyla Kirkpatrick, the CEO of the Champagne Dame. And in the last 12 months we have seen some interesting changes in shopping habits and drinking habits. It became a necessity for many favourite drinking spots to pivot and sell wine and alcohol online. And today's guest will be sharing their insights on investing and running a champagne club. So today we have Ms. Kyla Kirkpatrick, CEO of the Champagne Dame. Welcome, Kyla. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, the Champagne Dame, viewers may have already heard of you with an expose in Melbourne's The Herald Sun last week.
Yes, I mean, I suppose I've been no stranger to the media over the last couple of years with my rather unusual but very pleasurable job being an educator and a presenter specialising in champagne.
Fantastic. Well, I'm sure they're keen to hear more about your masterclasses and your investing insights. So let's get started. Please talk about your inspiration behind the Champagne Dame. I understand you're an avid property investor as well. Were they somehow tied in?
No, but eventually it will be. I'm still on the hunt for a chateau in Champagne, so that'll be my next big purchase. But no, my background's actually banking and finance. So studied at Melbourne University, did a commerce degree majoring in economics, and it wasn't really until 2005 that I fell in love with the story of the Champagne region and the history of Champagne. And, I parked my career. I read every book there was to read on Champagne, and when I ran out of books and still had a passion, I decided, well, I'm going to buy a one-way ticket to Paris. I arrived in Champagne and spent a year there learning my craft. Before I joined Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy, so one of the world's biggest luxury goods conglomerates, but also owning 5 of the world's biggest champagne houses. So coming back from Paris after that time, working for 𝐿VMH, being an ambassador for champagne in Australia, and then deciding that I wanted to run my own business. I could see that there was a big desire for champagne in Australia. We're number 6 in the world and growing for champagne consumption. Started Champagne Dame. It started as a nickname and it stuck. So hosting champagne masterclasses, taking people into the beautiful world of champagne and taking them across to France. So that's really where my journey began in 2005.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing your story with us and working with one of the world's richest men. That's amazing, or maybe one of his companies. So you've launched Australia's only champagne club.
Yes.
This must be inspiration that you've got from working with such massive conglomerates. Please talk about your journey at the club.
Well, what I started to realise was that, working for 𝐿VMH, you represent 5 of the biggest champagne houses, Dom Pérignon, Krug, Clicquot, Moët & Chandon, Runar, but there are actually over 3,000 champagne houses, and a lot of those smaller houses are really high in quality but very hard to seek out. So really I'm the voice of champagne in this country. I do a lot of the research. I hunt high and low for really good quality producers and I bring them into the country. So I have quite a big importing business now through Emperor Champagne, one of my other companies, our warehouse in Victoria. And I realised that when I was putting these champagnes into champagne masterclasses, people would call me a month later or 2 months later and say, hey, can you get me a 6-pack of this and a dozen of that, etc. And before I knew it, I was sort of waist high in champagne in my home. So I decided that I would open my own warehouse, built my own climate-controlled, fully state-of-the-art warehouse in Victoria, and I started Australia's first champagne club. And we have members all around Australia who pay a monthly membership fee, and then I deliver beautiful high-end custom champagnes in a gorgeous box every month to our customers with an education tutorial. Just a way of getting people off the well-worn track of the big houses and getting them into the beautiful journey of the back lanes of Champagne.
The back lanes of Champagne, I like the way you phrase that. So please give us a brief on how your Champagne Masterclasses helps clients to discover the world of champagne.
Well, for me, it's not just about the wine, it's about the history. My interest first started with an interest in Napoleon Bonaparte and his fascination with champagne. There's a very, very strong connection between the Champagne region, war and champagne, and not to mention the beautiful stories that have interwoven their lives with champagne, from Marie Antoinette and Josephine and Madame du Pompadour and so on. So, I talk a lot about the history of champagne, as well as the history of these big champagne houses, and also different styles, etiquette, service, etc. It really is an immersive journey into the world of champagne. You are well and truly out of the realm of where you are, and you're well and truly immersed into the world of France, champagne in particular, and what better time to do that than in the middle of COVID when we just can't travel.
Exactly. And do you let your masterclass attendees know how they get the bubbles into the glass?
Of course, that would be wrong of me to not give them the insight into how it's made. Yes, of course, we cover everything from history to etiquette to production technique.
Fantastic. And what's happening with the champagne sales in Australia at the present? Is it still pumping as it did last year?
It is booming. With Emperor Champagne, which is our online retailer, we were up 120% last year. What we're seeing now is people trading up. There's more entertaining at home, so people are travelling less naturally. There's a surplus in funds that normally go to overseas holidays, and people are using those funds for luxury items, caviar, champagne, holiday homes, renovations, and there's a lot of in-home dining. So we are booming in Australia. We are the fastest growing market yet again in the world in Australia. I wouldn't be surprised if you see another leap up in the global rankings of Australia in terms of outright consumption, not per capita consumption. I think for us, we see a lot of really high-end bottles out the door. We see a lot of big bottle formats, Jeroboams, back vintages, Salon, Cristal. A lot of the rarities are in demand at the moment. It's very, very hard to keep up with champagne demand. And on the flip side, we've got shortages. So this will be a real challenge in the market this year if champagne consumption in Australia continues to grow and we've got shortages coming out of France. Serious first world problem.
Absolutely, because I know of people who've just opened up champagne bars in the rocks, and that could be quite a problem.
Yes,
well,
they need to diversify. Look, on the whole, there's lots of champagne. It's just we have strong demand at the top end of the market for a couple of brands, but there are some wonderful champagne brands in the market. And, I'll be really focusing on diversifying what comes in, and from an importer perspective this year, bringing in some high-quality, smaller producers that can backfill some of that issue in demand.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your insights on your brands. And viewers, if you've just joined us today, we had a very interesting discussion with Miss Kyla Kirkpatrick, the CEO of the Champagne Dame. And before we wind up, Kyla, was there any last comments you'd like to share with our viewers?
No, other than if you're interested in getting off the track with champagne, you can head to emperorchampagne.com.au, our online retail site. We're the largest online retailer of champagne in the Southern Hemisphere. Or come and join me at a champagne masterclass and take yourself out of Australia and logically, somewhere else more beautiful, probably France. It's going to be champagne.
Sounds like fun. I might have to join one of those myself. So thank you very much for your time, Kyla. And the full recorded interview will be available from the YouTube channel 𝐾𝐿 Media in the next couple of days. And viewers, stay tuned for more of the live market updates. And as we say, stay apprised and invest wise with 𝐾𝐿.